Hello, everyone. My name is Tooways Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow morning. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments and drop a two in the comments if you're watching the recording. My guest for this week is Thumeka Moletsane, Chartered Accountant, Head of Operations at Sanlam Corporate Investments and SAICA Top 35 Under 35 finalist in 2021, as well as a mental health activist. Thumeka, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Let's jump straight into questions. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Thumeka Moletsane? Give us that backstory.
Okay, so I'm actually Moletsane Henkeman. I got married in October 2020, so I don't have a double barrel, but because I don't have an ID that says Henkeman, I'm still using Moletsane at the moment. So I'm a 32-year-old from a very, very small town in the Eastern Cape called Thumekas. I'd like to say I'm a small town girl who has a dream and a vision. And I think the best way to describe myself is that I strive for transformation and diversity in everything that I do. I as you have said, I am a chartered accountant by qualification, a dream that I had, but where I was supported by a huge base, especially my mother, who, funny enough, didn't even know what a chartered accountant is. But because she believed in my vision and my dream, she always pushed me to do the most, even through failures in this journey. She was my number one cheerleader. I've been in audit all my life, most of my life, actually. I've been in 3 out of the big 4 in my capacity as a manager and a senior audit manager. I spent 2 years abroad at PwC in Ireland. Amazing experience, wouldn't change it for anything. I always tell my husband that we need to go back, but due to the weather and everything, he does not want to go back. So I came back to South Africa in December of 2019, and then I took employment at Ernst & Young as a senior manager. I was there for about 18 months. And then in August of 2021, I decided, you know what, I think it was time to leave the comfort zone of audit and actually start pursuing my career in financial services in the industry. That's when this amazing opportunity at Sanlam came to my attention. So I've been at Sanlam for about 6 months now. Amazing experience. I was selected as the SAICA 35 under 35, which was probably the highlight of my 2021. Having found out that over 600 chartered accountants actually applied to be part of the top 35 was such an amazing achievement for me. Might have not won, but I think the recognition for me will speak volume for a couple of years to come. And I have an amazing woman actually who encouraged me to enter last year already, because I thought, you know what, I wanted to register my Mental Health Nation NGO before I could actually go into the platform. But she was like to me, especially now in COVID times, there's no better time than now to actually bring this message across. So that's how my 2021 was basically summed up. I am a mental health activist. I'd like to call myself a safe space for people who suffer from mental illness. As myself, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder with severe panic attacks in March of 2019. And I think I just chose to tell my story to alleviate some of the stigma around mental illness and to show young professionals that it's okay. We can suffer from these things, but in no way are they what defines us. It's in no way are they a limitation. You can still achieve so many dreams and goals while you're still navigating mental illness. But apart from that, I am a sneaker fanatic outside of work. I am a sneaker collector. I collect sneakers. I am currently sitting on 139 pairs, I think, of
Wow.
sneakers. A habit that's driving my husband crazy. But I always tell him it's my only indulgence. He has to let me be. But apart from that, I'm just the most chilled person you can think of. I'm very goofy. I'm very funny. However, when obviously it's time to be serious, I do show people that serious side. So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, now that gives us sneaker connection. Sneaker collector is interesting. Well, I like that. That's definitely a first. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I see that you did articles at Caesar and Saluba Gobodo in Cape Town.
Yes.
Was that in financial services? And if not, how did you transition from general audit to financial services audit? Then all the way now, I mean, now you're completely in financial services.
Yeah. I always tell people that the beauty of doing articles in a medium firm is the exposure that you get all around. Back then, when it was 2013, they really didn't have financial services, retail, and all that. It was just all in one. You got put on whatever client that was happening. So from there, I got to audit a lot of pension funds, especially through Sanlam, through Old Mutual. There was a couple of them that I did, and through there, I think my love for the financial services industry, it came about. I think merely from a perspective that it's such a highly regulated environment that I wanted to be part of something like that, in that environment where it's regulated. There's rules and regulations, and it is quite a specialized industry. And I think COVID has shown us a thing or two, that it's very important to secure a job that is not going to be impacted by a pandemic. So I think for security, for growth, for perspective of there will always be some form of job in the industry, that's where my love for financial services brought about. And after leaving Seasway, obviously I went to Signia, where I was an investment administrator for about a year and a half. And then I transitioned back into audit from that. It's just that I left audit at the wrong time because I was just ready to leave. But I think I hadn't equipped myself with all the skills I needed for industry. Hence, I made the transition back.
Okay, okay. And I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but you've transitioned from audit to commerce at a very senior level. And you stated
Yeah.
audit. Yes, you had it a bit at senior, but basically at a very senior. Most people transition either straight out of articles, or they maybe stay for 2 years as a manager and then make the transition. How did you find that transition at such a senior level? Because I'm assuming at the senior position that you're in, there's a lot less time to settle, and they almost expect you to hit the ground running.
Yeah. So obviously, I went back into audit, right? And I think for me at that point of going back to audit after the Signia experience was for me to actually build up my knowledge in terms of how to manage and lead people. I think that is the skill that I had lacked when I left, immediately after being signed off. So my main focus was that, you know what, when I leave this audit environment after being a manager, I'm not going to settle for anything less than what I think I should be. Right. And, in those years, and being in the big four, leading different people, reporting to different partners, and, everybody had different expectations of you. I got to actually understand how to lead people. I got to understand how to manage people. And this is the thing that I keep telling people that are doing articles, that don't be in a rush to leave, because there's so many skills that you're actually going to get post articles that will set you apart when you leave for industry. So for me, when I was actually approached for this role, I actually realized that it was a flip of a coin. This is basically, I've been auditing these environments, but now it's just a matter of I'll be on the other side implementing everything that I was going to audit. And at first it was intimidating because I was very comfortable in audit, but I knew that if I were to leave audit, this is probably what I would be doing: a touch of risk, a touch of compliance, a touch of financial reporting. So for me, when I left, I remember that month in September, I was very transparent with my boss in terms of, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I have some form of, knowledge and things, but I think that's what they were looking for at that time. They needed someone who didn't understand what they were doing. However, they were bringing a new perspective in terms of management, in terms of thinking outside the box. So I think for me, that has been my advantage in the fact that I'm bringing such a young, you know, thinking mind. Like I'm the youngest in the management group. Like I'm talking about people who are in their 40s and being 32, coming in a manager role, having to actually manage people that are 2 times older than I am. It has been a challenge. However, I think my resilience and the fact that I went into this with a positive and open mind has helped me to actually adapt on a daily and to actually allow myself to be taught and allow myself to teach others what I've learned outside in my past experiences.
Right, this is a good summary. For the audience, if anybody's got any questions for Thumeka, please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them, and we'll answer all the questions towards the end. I want to jump back to discussing mental health. What made you decide to start a blog about mental health? Because we don't see many senior leaders being willing to be open about these things.
Yeah, yeah. So for everybody who is on the live, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder with severe panic attacks in March of 2019. At that time, I was living abroad. I was staying in Ireland, and at that point, it was just me and my fiance, now husband, and all we had was each other. And the strain of the unknown where mental health is concerned, it took a toll to a point where we're like, maybe it's time to come back home, so that there's a more structure in terms of support so that they can rotate in supporting me, because it was an unknown for me. And because I didn't understand what was going on, I couldn't explain to someone else what was happening. So came back 2020, and COVID hit, and then we were put into lockdown, and that's when my anxiety heightened so much. And I think at that point, I was looking for a circle of people who were going through something similar to what was happening to me. And in no form or shape am I being racial, but I couldn't find Black people going through this, because I do feel that in white communities, therapy, taking care of your well-being is things that are normal. But now I couldn't really find a place where I could relate with another Black person. So in October, I was like to my husband, you know what? I am just going to tell my story. I am going to shoot a video, put it on Facebook, and just see what's going to happen. And that's basically what I did. I was nervous. I was scared of my story being out there. But I had a purpose and a vision in doing so, in that I just wanted to normalize mental illness with regards to the young profession. And that's basically how it all started. And I mean, a year and a couple of months later, we've transitioned to YouTube. I offer one-on-one sessions with people, but not in a capacity of a therapist, but in just the capacity of equipping people with tools of how to navigate mental illness.
No, that's great. It's great that those options are out there. A lot of accountants in particular, and young professionals in general, are conservative, and then they might be scared to create content like you have. I'm trying to get them to try to create more content. What have you learned from your blogging and your content creation journey? How has it helped you?
I think firstly, because we overthink it so much, I think at the beginning I was thinking too much about it, that I needed to have a camera, I needed to know how to edit and things like that. But then I remembered this purpose was bigger than what appears. if people can understand and listen to the message, I'll get better as we go along. And being authentic, because this is my story. No one can tell it better than I do, and I needed a platform to tell my story my own way, and not for the narrative to float out there like that. Oh, look at her. She's flexing all these amazing sneakers. But did you know that she suffers from this? Now I've told my story, I've put it out there. And I think the journey for me has taught me how to be selfless. It has taught me that people need people who have louder voices, because the people who actually are not talking about mental illness, it's not that they don't wanna, it's because they're not at that stage where they are ready to do it. So for me to being the voice of so many has taught me the act of selflessness. And I know at the beginning, I put so much content out there, and I know I was shooting twice a week. And now, like, I can skip a Sunday and not shoot, because I believe I've equipped my people with so much information that even when I'm not there, they have something to actually reference back to. So I think the biggest lesson is that it doesn't need to be perfect. It just transpires as time goes. And as long as you have the passion and the vision and you know why you're doing something, it will flourish regardless.
Agreed. The only way you're going to get better is if you do. If you go back to my first few interviews, so there's a big. I'm not great. I just suck a lot less than I did.
And that's fine. Like I think I can't even watch the first video, because I remember I had put my phone straight up, so my video has sides that are blank, and I'm like, why did you do that? But now I've learned so much that I know what to do, and we improve over time. You never know how good you can get at something until you try it out.
100%, 100%. Let's talk SAICA Top 35 under 35. What was your experience like, and would you recommend that others apply?
So with top 35 under 35, my intention was not to enter in 2021. My intention was, I do want to, well, it's gonna happen in the next couple of months, where now I'm busy prepping to register my NGO. So my NGO will obviously be centered around helping people with mental health issues. So obviously, having seen this thing and being like, I'm gonna be one of those people, the top 35, you see their profiles that these people are doing serious hectic things, and you just wonder, when do they get time to do all these things? I'm struggling with the 8 to 5, but you have this other life out there. So I spoke to a lady who's actually now a partner at KPMG, Rofiwa, and she had joined in a couple of years before that. And I told her, these are my intentions. I want to get into this next year. I just want to build up my profile a little bit more. And she was like to me, what do you have to lose if you enter this year? You know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about something that you're passionate about. And with the COVID times, the time is now for you to enter this thing. And I did. And compiled my profile, did everything, and I applied. I got the call, and I could not believe my ears. When they told me you part of the 35 under 35, it was such a surreal, it was so surreal moment for me that, you know what, it means the noise that I'm making is being heard. The little noise that I'm trying to make everybody understand is being heard. I was overjoyed with emotion that it didn't matter at that point whether I won or not. I was just happy that I got there. Firstly, no one can take that recognition away from you. We are talking about being judged by a panel of people who have made such a huge contribution in the industry where CAs are concerned. So for me to be recognized by people of that caliber, it was a tick for me. And going through the cycle and the whole experience now leading up to the interviews, I got to be comfortable that, when the time is right, everything does fall into place. And the time for me was then. And I think for going into the interviews and interacting with other candidates, I realized how powerful this qualification is. I used to doubt it sometimes, but it's not about the money, but it's about the impact that you can make. It's about all the different avenues and paths you can take your career at. I mean, one of the people there was a film director or something like that, and he's a CA, and he is utilizing his skills within his business. So for me, I think the journey in itself, it taught me so much that maybe I'm not dreaming enough. Maybe there's wider and bigger dreams, and to be actually inspired by people, my own peers, to actually dream even more was such a surreal moment for me that I was like, there's so much more I'm still gonna do. So I will definitely recommend young chartered accountants to join. And you actually won't know, because you're sitting on it now and you're like, I don't have enough. But you never know if you have enough until you put it out there. And obviously there's a cut off with this thing at 35. That's your last year. So you need to do it now. And you will walk out feeling inspired about other people's journeys as well.
You summarized it. You summarized it well. And I mean, the worst that could happen is that they say no. And I
Exactly.
fully agree with you. Apply, take it from someone who waited until they were 35 and applied only at 35 and didn't make it. So I'm a little bit jealous. But apply now. There's things that you learn in the process. Even if you don't make it this year, you can apply again next year. So don't wait
Yeah.
until it's too late. Take it from
Yeah.
somebody who's been through that process. I'm going to ask you one question that I'd like to ask all my guests. What
Okay.
is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Ah. Oh wow. My younger self was very scared. She was not confident. She was a people pleaser. That was my younger self. I always needed validation and from people that didn't even matter, you know. And now having grown up and being so transparent and being bold, I I'm okay with my younger self having been that, because my older self now understands I never want to be that person, you know. So I think to my younger self, I would tell them, you did great back then. You set the foundation for the woman that I am today, the bold, the strong, the outspoken, the loud woman that I am. I wouldn't change you in any shape or form. Yeah, you were young, you had so much fun, you had fear, which probably did protect you from a lot of things. But I think now the woman that I am today has been set up by that foundation that she laid on me. So I would definitely say I'm proud of her.
I think that's a great summary. I just want to check
Yeah.
if there's any questions coming through. It doesn't look like there's any questions. People are just greeting, and somebody saying that they'll reach out to you about collaboration on a mental health project, but no questions.
Okay.
Are there any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
You didn't ask me about my sneakers. But
Okay, tell
um
us then.
no, no, I think that's my guilty pleasure. It's my only indulgence, to be honest. But yeah, we'll talk about sneakers there's some other time. But I think we've covered the topics all so nicely. And I think if we would touch on back on currently what I'm doing now, and one of the challenges I had in my job, my current job, was basically leading older people, leading people that have been at Sanlam for years, people that have that their blood is blue. And I think a lot of CAs are in that space where they're coming in different companies and getting to lead. And I wasn't looked down on, but I think for me the struggle was maintaining the balance, being respectful and still laying some form of authority. And I think if other CAs are going through a similar thing, one thing I would like to tell you is, don't go in with the mentality that you're a CA. I've been taught how to think, how to do this. Actually, I've learned a thing or two about managing people just from purely telling them, I'm not here to change how you guys are doing things. I'm here to improve how you guys are doing things, or finding other efficient ways of doing things. And it has been such a give and take, where they teaching me things, I'm teaching them things. And actually, sometimes now I don't even feel as young as I felt the first day I stepped into Sanlam. So I think that's my advice, because I think a lot of CAs are getting into that space where, we're leading our mothers' friends, but how do you maintain the balance between being respectful and actually, still doing your job?
I think that's a great way to end. There's 2 questions that have just slipped through. Do you mind if I run them by you quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So the first one is a quick one, and then you can give a quick answer to that one. Party or drip?
Neither. Neither. I am so sorry. And I'm sorry to say this in this platform. I think they need to go back to the drawing board a little bit more.
Is that just a preference thing, I'm assuming? But we'll move on from that one.
I'm a Jordan 1 baby. So
I see.
They make the
The
most out of my
OG.
collection.
I understand.
But if I were to forced to choose, I would choose Bantu.
There we go.
Yeah.
We've got a question from Tapelo. When it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered as?
Wow, that's a beautiful question. I want to be remembered as for my role and contribution in the mental health space. That is all I ever want to be remembered on. That's when I found my true purpose in life, the moment I stepped in front of the camera and started giving people the information. What I want to be remembered for, I want to be remembered as the young woman who succeeded so much in her career, however, was basically able to break down barriers that have been imposed on people that suffer from mental well-being. And for young girls to have a reference when they start having their own emotional breakdowns, to say, oh, do you remember her? She also had mental health issues, but look at everything that she achieved. So that's, I just want to be remembered in that space. It has nothing to do with being a CA, but the voice that I'm having in the mental space, I wanted to speak volumes even when I'm no longer around.
I think that's an amazing way to end. For everyone at home, the show has been live on YouTube and should be available on the podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that's added value to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell so that you get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Thumeka, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to say to the young people that are on this live, as someone who's coming from a small town where I didn't have role models to look up to, I just want to say to you, have a vision and a purpose for your life. And even if you don't have examples in front of you, have the stride to fight for what you want to be. Never let your circumstances determine how beautiful and big you can be in this lifetime. When I look back and when I go home, I'm like, I don't have role models here, but look at me now. I'm the kids' role model. So be the first in your community, be the first in your family. I always say I'm the first who broke the generational poverty, and I take pride in that. You need to be the first. You need to be the first to break the troublesome in your family. You need to be the first to be anything in your community. So please stay focused and remember why you started something when you started. Even when it's not going well, just remember why you started in the first place.
We'll end up there. Thanks everyone for joining us for another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.